John Wick may be a man of precision and perfection with a gun and a car, but when it comes to the filmmakers recording him, not everything goes so smoothly. The John Wick trilogy is a collection of 3 nearly perfect action movies, but we can't help but notice some mistakes made along the way, from obvious editing blunders to magically healing cars. Check out some mistakes you missed the first time around and see if you can spot them before the big reveals. After being built up the whole movie, some of the climatic events in the first John Wick involved the final battle between Wick and the crime boss Viggo. In one scene, Viggo manages to get the upper hand on Wick by plowing into the side of his car with an SUV, but the whiplash and maximum force wasn't enough. Viggo continues to push until Wick's car falls off the edge of the docks, flips completely, and lands on the platform below. Did you spot the mistake? Look underneath the vehicle, and you'll see all the internal engine and the components have been completely removed. This is obviously done for safety reasons on the stunt, but the vehicle looks pretty much like a life-size Hot Wheels car. There's nothing like enjoying the comfort of a high thread count blanket or pillowcase, but how high does the count need to be to heal itself after a bullet was shot through? Watch as Marcus aligns his sniper on Wick and then sends a warning shot into the top corner of the pillow. A few moments later, spot the mistake? Yup, the pillow is completely healed with the bullet hole magically disappeared as Miss Perkins shoots John down. When he jumps back across the bed, you can see the pillow with no bullet hole. Someone in the props department really screwed this one up. For this next mistake, it's an easy one to miss because our eyes are probably all welled up with tears. Yeah, we hate to do it, but we gotta go back to the dead puppy scene from the first John Wick film. As Wick awakens, he discovers the poor pooch by his side and gives him a comforting pat on his fur. Or is he? Look at that gentle touch again. Doesn't it look like Wick's hand is floating? Well, it is. The dog and Wick are blended together using some CG magic, but the hand looks like it's floating rather than petting. And at one point, a finger actually disappears beneath the dog's skin in a major editing glitch. The production would have been better off using a stuffed dog prop. The world of John Wick wasn't introduced to us right away. As we followed Wick's journey, little pieces of his history were given, and one of the earliest signs of Wick's past and involvement with the world of assassins was when he made dinner reservations. To do this, he called in the cleanup crew to dispose of the dead men scattered around his house. What could go wrong with a simple phone call? Dial a wrong number? No, phone not plugged in, right? No. The mistake has to do with Wick's dialogue. He makes reservations for 12.
I'd like to make a dinner reservation for 12.
But if you watch the home invasion scene again, Wick actually kills 13 goons. Guess someone isn't going to have a spot at the dinner table. The kills come so fast, it's only natural for Wick to lose count. One of the great cameos in the John Wick franchise comes in the first movie, when former WWE superstar Kevin Nash plays the club bouncer Francis. As Wick and Francis catch up before the massive club shootout, Francis reveals that he's lost some weight, over 60 pounds to be exact, according to the stylish subtitles anyway. Well, unless you're fluent in Russian, this is one mistake you will easily miss. While speaking Russian, Francis's words translate to 20 kilograms, which is actually only 44 pounds. We'd love to confront Francis about this tall tale, but he never appeared in the franchise again. Maybe John Wick Chapter 4 would be a good time to bring him back for some great action and a little clarity on his weight loss numbers. The funeral scene in John Wick is as dark and dramatic as it gets. Rain pours down. The New York City skyline is in the background, and you can feel John's pain as his wife's casket is lowered into the ground. During the whole scene, John Wick holds an umbrella, but there's something strange about the poor weather accessory. When he talks with Marcus, pay attention to the ribs underneath the umbrella. Those are the metal wires extending out from the center of the umbrella. For a majority of the shots, the umbrella has 8 ribs, but during a couple of shots, the umbrella completely changes, featuring one that is much wider and with over 20 ribs. The larger umbrella makes sense, considering how hard it's raining, but there was no way he could have switched umbrellas so quickly. With so many quick shots and bullets flying everywhere, it's easy for the John Wick production to miss a few errors through filming and editing, especially in the hectic home invasion scene. During one part, Wick hunts down enemies around his modern-style home, which includes a lot of different glass panels. He shoots and shatters a piece of glass at one point, but pay attention to the scene just seconds later. Yup, the glass is fully intact again, looking brand new as Wick heads off to stop another enemy from getting him. Maybe the glass-shattering kill shot was filmed at a later point and also accounts for the extra 13th man Wick forgot to call for dinner reservations about? One of the more brilliant parts of John Wick is the pacing of the story, showcasing the love and build between John and his wife through a series of quick flashbacks without focusing too much on exposition. At one point, we see a series of shots of their love together and the moment where it takes a turn for the worst. John's wife collapses, but something is a little off about the shot. The whole clip is only a few seconds long, but see if you can spot the major error. Right at the very last moment, after Wick's wife collapses, the cameraman seemed to collapse as well. The shot suddenly shakes and rattles, and the movement was clearly an error, unintended for a professional production. Seeing as it was part of a montage, the editors probably thought that they'd slip the flub in there, but it's highly noticeable the more times you see it. The John Wick movies are set in New York and New Jersey, presenting a lot of crowd control problems when filming, especially as scenes focus on some landmark areas. In a gorgeous overhead shot from the first John Wick, our hero drives from New Jersey into the city of New York with some vengeance on his mind. In the overhead shot, the car cruises through traffic on a pretty crowded bridge. When we cut to the interior of the vehicle, the view changes a little bit. There are literally no other cars located on the bridge with them. Maybe it is an error, but if we saw an angry John Wick driving across the bridge, we'd find the first exit off ASAP, or just brake and let him easily pass by. Willem Dafoe's turn as Marcus was filled with a lot of mixed emotions as we watched the movie. Would the former Green Goblin go full evil and turn on Wick? It turned out he was on the hero side this time around, defending Wick even though it put him in the crosshairs of a vengeful Viggo. Like many of the characters in the trilogy, Marcus meets his end in violent fashion, but when Wick discovers his body, we may question whether he's really dead after all. Let the theories start pouring in. See, watch closely as Wick approaches Marcus. You can see his body breathing ever so slightly. We imagine it was hard for Dafoe to hold his breath for long, especially with the awkward position he's in. One of the oddest errors in the film comes pretty early on and definitely makes you look twice when it occurs. Just 4 minutes into the movie and you'll spot Johnny Boy holding his wife's bracelet and setting it down on a nightstand. Look closely and see your eyes jolt when the error is spotted, huh? Did you find it? Yeah, we all agree. John Wick must have some time travel powers because the clock behind the bracelet jumps from 8 to 10 in the blink of an eye. 2 shots were strangely edited in to create the error, even though the scene could have easily cut away before the clock shifted. The Continental has always been advertised as a safe haven for trained killers, but more often than not, a lot of the action has taken place there. Like the time in the first John Wick where the poor guy just wanted a nap, only to be interrupted by Miss Perkins. Well, like most of his enemies, Wick gains the upper hand and has Perkins in a tough position. Wick forces his hand over her mouth and chin area, but when we go in for the close-up, the hand position has clearly changed. Did Wick do a quick move to hear her answers? No, because we cut right back away to the wider shot and his hand over her chin again. Apparently, Miss Perkins had to deal with multiple takes of a very aggressive John Wick defending himself. Just when Viggo thinks he has John Wick captured, a perfect shot from Marcus gives Wick the opportunity to escape captivity and then be on his way. With his hands strapped behind his back, he must show a lot of flexibility to swing his arms around his feet and then get released. Watch the super fast scene again and see if you can spot the mistake. Nope, looks pretty clean there. Well, if you slow things down a little bit, you'll see a shoe plop right off as he swings his arms over his leg. Right there on the right side. But when Wick gets back up again, both shoes are on and neatly tied. So not only can the man escape when his hands are tied behind his back, but he is the master of slipping on a pair of shoes. Aurelio runs the car shop where John Wick seeks out his coveted Mustang, and through a flashback scene, we see him have a confrontation with Yosef over messing with John Wick. Look past Aurelio's shoulder and you'll see a hood open with a lamp and a coffee cup underneath it. A couple of quick cuts and both props have mysteriously disappeared. Thankfully they did, because just a few moments later, Aurelio walks over and slams the hood down. He would have spilled coffee everywhere if the cup remained on the car. The gas station scene in John Wick proves that the trained assassin breaks the law in more ways than one. Not only does he have a huge body count to his name, but he doesn't follow the laws from his own home state. Anyone from New Jersey knows how it goes at the gas station. There's no pumping your own gas. But in John Wick, he seems to live beyond the rules, self-serving his gas tank with all the juicy unleaded that it can handle. And thanks to Wick's home and some newspapers at the gas station, there's no denying that he's pumping at a New Jersey location. Thankfully, Officer Jimmy probably lets this infraction slide as well. Okay, enough of John Wick and its mistakes, but no, the video isn't over yet either. Now it's time for a little focus on John Wick Chapter 2. The sequel is filled with some spectacular visuals, including the scene where Cassian and Wick encounter each other on opposite sides of a water fountain. When the water shoots up, the gun shooting starts as well, and you hear the cries and screams by random citizens getting away from the action. Then, just moments later, we see the citizens again walking all casual like nothing has just happened. It's like an old version of Grand Theft Auto, where the characters stroll down the street like they didn't just see you toting a bazooka gun around. In Chapter 2, we see Wick get closer to his new adopted dog, and thankfully, the dog survives when Wick's whole house gets blown to bits. The two decide to take a journey to the city from New Jersey in what must be one heck of a walk. At one point, the two cross over a bridge, but the bridge does not actually connect to New Jersey in any way. This means they would have had to walk around the whole island of Manhattan just to get on the bridge. Nothing like a little cardio before you start taking on other assassins. So far, we've seen glass heal, pillows reform, and John Wick have shoes instantly appear on his feet. And Chapter 2 continues this trend with a magical healing car. In the opening sequence, Wick chases a motorcycle down before causing the rider to crash right into the side of his car, creating all kinds of dents and damage. When Wick steps out of his car and goes to check on the bike rider, the car looks practically brand new again. It's as if the motorcycle did no damage at all. And if you thought they learned their lesson with the first car scene, well, it only takes a few more minutes to spot another healing car error. In this clip, a man rolls over the car, making maximum impact with the windshield. It's only on there for less than a second, but stop right there, and you can see the shattered glass. Now we cut ahead a few seconds, and boom, the car's windshield is fully intact. Nothing to see here, folks, just another pristine car ready for some more action. There are many times in movies where people find errors which aren't actually errors at all. After faulting John Wick so much already, it's time to give one back to the team. The error in question comes during the closing scenes of Chapter 2 when Wick meets up with Winston at the park. As Winston informs John of his excommunicado status, we get a couple of wide shots where you can spot a small table in the bottom corner. Many sites point to the table as some type of film catering, but a single table wouldn't be used for catering, especially right behind where the actors are shooting. The table is authentically New York, selling merchandise like purses and jewelry to passersby. There's no error to see here, folks. But if you're looking for a true error in the previous scene, you would not have been able to figure it out until after you saw John Wick Chapter 3. Winston may be putting Wick on the hit list and on the opposite side of the high table, but he's not all bad. He's giving Wick an hour to get on the run, avoid any nearby assassins, and to formulate a plot to prevent the multi-million-dollar bounty on his head. As Winston tells Wick this, we get a close-up on his watch, which clearly shows it's about to turn 4 o'clock. But at the beginning of John Wick Chapter 3, John actually has until 6 o'clock before the status is officially executed. So John either figured out a way to weasel an extra hour of the deal, or the filmmakers wanted to showcase the dramatic darkness of night and figured we'd just ignore the error. At the end of the day, the John Wick movies are truly about a human love for dogs, and this extends greatly in John Wick Chapter 3. Wick still has his beloved dog from Chapter 2, and at one point he meets up with Sophia, a former ally who has 2 dogs of her own. Or does she actually have more? It gets a little confusing. She clearly has 2 dogs when first meeting with Wick in the movie, but then one of the dogs gets shot dead. There should only be 1 remaining, but when Sophia transports Wick to the desert, she has 2 dogs again. She adopted another dog already, or did we miss a crucial error? Maybe Chapter 4 will make things right again and fix the confusing mistake? Even with all the guns and knives, one of the coolest additions to John Wick Chapter 3 was horses. During the stable attack scene, we saw just how powerful a horse's kick could be on a human skull. The stable in the scene features multiple horses, and with so much action, some trainers obviously had to be there to help. In one of the quick shots, look deep in the background to see one of the trainers help keep a horse under control. With so much action and chaos, the horses could have easily done more damage than they did on screen if those trainers were not positioned correctly. Showcasing the bonds between animals and humans has also been an important part of making an emotional connection with the characters. This is why in the original John Wick, some bacon grease was used on Wick's face to get the puppy to go and lick him. So for John Wick Chapter 3, the same strategy was implemented, but it's the substance on Keanu Reeves' face that is a little more visible. During one of the close-up shots, you can see what looks like peanut butter or something to get the dog to lick him. If we knew John Wick was that desperate for puppy kisses, they could have made the assassin sanctuary at a pet shelter instead. To help prove his allegiance to the High Table and prevent his death, John Wick does the ultimate sacrifice, chopping off his ring finger and then taking the ring along with it. Yikes! The move will forever change Wick and the CG budget for any future movies. But after initially chopping off the finger, we have to question if it was chopped off in the proper location. Later on in the movie, we can see a longer nub, but he chopped it below the ring, meaning the nub would be much shorter than what we see. A black glove would be more than enough to cover up the mistake and prevent it from happening again in any of the John Wick sequels. You know what? Even with so many mistakes, these movies are awesome. They rock, entertain, and it's so easy to forget about these mistakes when the action is so fast-paced and exciting. Were there any that we missed? Which one was the most obvious? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more great content.